Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 5th Planning Commission work session. Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. For today's regular session, you're going to have 4 public hearing items. So we'll start off the work session by having our staff preview of each one of those items. Feel free to ask any questions you may have as we go. And our first item is UP 21-15, and that's Julie Chop's application.
Good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. This is Julie Chop, Principal Planner with the City of Portsmouth. This use permit application involves the property at 6229 Portsmouth Boulevard. The applicant is requesting a use permit for Suite 6229 Portsmouth Boulevard within the Manor Village Shopping Center in order to operate a vehicle sales used to rent U-Haul trucks. Please note the suite number listed in the staff report is incorrect. The approximately 5.634 acre property is in the neighborhood mixed-use zoning district. The use permit, should it be approved, shall only include the approximately 1,800 square feet subject lease space of Suite 6229 Portsmouth Boulevard. North of the subject property, across Portsmouth Boulevard, are single-family detached dwellings zoned urban residential UR. To the west are single-family detached dwellings in the Mayflower Park neighborhood zoned urban residential. East of the site, across Hodges Ferry Road, are commercial properties zoned NMU, neighborhood mixed use, and apartment buildings zoned multifamily urban residential URM. To the south are commercial properties zoned general mixed use or GMU. The applicant intends to utilize the lease space of 6229 Portsmouth Boulevard as a retail space to sell moving supplies and as an office to take online and phone reservations for the rental of U-Haul vehicles. The applicant indicates there will be no advertising, flags, banners, or large signage displayed at the lease space. A letter from the property owner of Manor Village Shopping Center was provided describing this shared parking agreement with the lease space of Calvary Truck Rental and Moving Supplies, LLC. The applicant indicates that no more than 4 trucks will be parked in the shopping center parking lot and that no vehicle repairs will be conducted on site. The 4-truck maximum to be parked on the lot was included as a recommended condition of this use permit request. Staff recommends approval of the use permit request with the recommended conditions for a vehicle sales use at the lease space in the shopping center at 6229 Portsmouth Boulevard. The proposed use is consistent with the recommendation of the city's Build One Portsmouth comprehensive plan and is appropriate in this location. 1 public comment was received regarding this application and was forwarded to the commissioners. This concludes my presentation, and I will now stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Chop. Commissioners, are there any questions of Mrs. Chop? Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, with the condition for the parking, the 4-truck minimum or maximum, was that imposed by the applicant, or was that something that you did, the planning department did, based on anything?
So in the applicant's narrative, they indicated they would only park 4 trucks on the lot, and they indicated that they did not foresee any additional parking besides those 4.
I guess with U-Haul, you know, the returning them, would it be returning them always at that location? Or, you know, can someone from Virginia Beach moving to Portsmouth drop off theirs? I mean, how would they handle that?
For that question, I'll let the applicant answer during the public hearing.
Commissioners, are there any additional questions? Thank you, Ms. Chapman.
Okay, our next application is item Z2106, and that is Stacy Porter's.
Hey, good afternoon. Hope you can hear me. Great. All right, good afternoon. I'm Stacy Porter and a senior planner with the Planning Department, and I will be providing an overview of the applicant's request. The applicant is concurrently requesting a rezoning and a use permit on the subject properties in support of their proposed development. The subject properties are addressed using the name Walden Avenue. This street name was officially closed by the city several years prior. Upon final city approval, the proposed development will be addressed using the street name Ansel Avenue. The combined size of the properties is 2.26 acres, and as can be seen in this photo, the properties are forested and vacant of structures. A portion of the larger of the two parcels is encompassed by non-tidal wetlands. The current zoning of the parcels is urban residential UR. The requested multifamily urban residential URM zoning would match the zoning to the immediate northeast and west. I'll now provide an overview of the surrounding area. To the north and west is the new Gosport Lincoln Military Housing, a multifamily residential development, zone URM. To the east is a multifamily residential development known as Ansel Gardens Apartments, zone URM as well. To the south is single-family residential development on Greenwood Drive, zone UR. This is the conceptual site plan that was provided by the applicant. The applicant's current UR zoning would only allow 12 units per acre. The applicant desires to rezone to URM to allow for up to 25 units per acre. The proposal presented here, which includes 39 apartment units, is 18 units per acre. The development will include a leasing office and community room. Required vehicular parking is 2 spaces per dwelling unit, as opposed to the 1.5 spaces noted on this per unit noted on this plan. The general area for bicycle parking is shown on this exhibit, but no further details were provided. Both short and long-term bicycle parking will be required. All site elements, including parking, will be addressed during site plan review. As was indicated in the submitted project narrative, the proposal is an expansion of the existing Ansel Gardens Apartments to the immediate east and will be known by the same name. Any proposed walking paths connecting the two complexes will also be addressed during site plan review. These are the elevations provided for the proposed development, which match those from the proposed Bird Lane Apartments off of Victory Boulevard, also owned and managed by the applicant. The new development will be accommodated within 1 2-story and 1 3-story building. These elevations here show an example of the 3-story structure. The newly developed apartment buildings will be constructed of red brick masonry, hardy shingle siding, vinyl windows, and an asphalt shingle roof. Each building will be constructed with breezeways containing the stairwells to access each floor. Apartment units will be provided either a porch or balcony enclosed with pipe and tube aluminum railings. Staff finds that the proposed rezoning of 2216 and 2220 Walden Avenue from urban residential UR to multifamily urban residential URM and the issuance of a use permit for multifamily development is appropriate. The properties are immediately adjacent to multifamily development to the north, east, and west, provides for the expansion of an existing apartment complex, and the proposal complies with the comprehensive plan's goal, which states future multifamily development should be planned to provide a greater range of housing choices for Portsmouth residents. Therefore, staff recommends the approval of the applicant's request, and that concludes the presentation.
Excuse me. Commissioners, are there any questions of Ms. Porter? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, our final work session item is Code Amendment 21-04, and Julie Chop will present that.
Good afternoon again, Planning Commissioners. This presentation will provide details on the proposed code amendments to the city zoning ordinance in accordance with the September 7th Planning Commission resolution. The city manager requested that the Planning Commission initiate amendments to the zoning ordinance regarding the car wash, auto detailing use in order to mitigate and minimize the impacts on surrounding uses. The following amendments are proposed to the Chapter 40.2 zoning ordinance. To amend the use table to require a use permit for a car wash and auto detailing use in the general mixed use, light industrial, and industrial zoning districts. So everywhere that a car wash, auto detailing use is permitted, it would require a use permit. The following additional amendments, additional use-specific standards are proposed to be added to the existing use-specific standards for the car wash and auto detailing use. Areas containing vacuum spaces shall comply with the interior vehicular use area landscaping standards. Landscaping islands shall be installed on both ends of any rows of vacuum spaces. Large vacuum equipment shall be fully screened in accordance with the zoning ordinance screening section. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments to zoning ordinance chapter 40.2 of the city code in order to improve the development process as well as mitigate and minimize impacts on surrounding land uses in order to reasonably and objectively meet the needs of the citizens and businesses while maintaining the health, safety, and welfare of the public. This concludes my presentation, and I will now stand by for any questions.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Ms. Chop? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just like to move down to our new business item. I just wanted to make some, I guess, relatively short comments here on the City Council decision of their last meeting regarding planning commissioner compensation. I imagine you've all heard about that or some level aware of that. The City Council did vote to include the Planning Commission as one of the 4 boards and commissions that will be compensated $100 per meeting. It goes into effect for you today. However, I would just say that the process for processing the payments is being worked on through the finance department. That's not been completed yet, so I cannot tell you exactly when the first payment will show up, but just want to let you know that you become eligible for those payments today. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer those.
Commissioners, are there any questions of Mr. Baldwin? Thank you, sir.
And that's all we have.
Commissioners, if there are no further questions, this concludes the work session of the Planning Commission for October 5th, and we will reconvene at 1:30 for the regular meeting for today. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all to this very important meeting today, October 5th, 2021, being held in the City Council chambers. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, I will now confirm that all members of the Planning Commission are present by calling the roll. Commissioners, when I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Youngblood, Commissioner Thaxton,
Present.
Commissioner G, Commissioner Coleman,
Present.
Commissioner Page,
Present.
Commissioner Barnes. 4 members of the Planning Commission are present.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, before you are the minutes of the September 7th, 2021 public hearing. If there aren't any changes, we are in need of a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Page. I make a motion for the approval of the previous meeting's minutes.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'd like to make a second.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the September the 7th planning hearing. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Thaxton,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Page.
Yes.
This item is approved by a vote of 4-0. Announcements of future meetings and conferences. Due to the November elections, our next scheduled work session is Tuesday, November the 16th, 2021 at 12:30 p.m., City Council Chamber, followed by public hearing at 1:30 p.m., City Council Chamber. Items reviewed today will be presented to City Council for action at their November the 9th, 2021 public hearing or as otherwise noted. Planning Commission rules limit a speaker up to 5 minutes to speak. We also ask that everyone please silence your cell phone at this time if you have not already done so. Thank you. Our first public hearing item, UP-21-15 Mayflower Park. Glenn Robinson and Elaine Crane of Calvary Truck Rental and Moving Supplies, LLC, request a use permit for a vehicle sales use to rent U-Haul vehicles and sell moving supplies within the shopping center on a 5.634 acre parcel at 6229 Portsmouth Boulevard in the Neighborhood Mixed Use NMU zoning district. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property as a mixed-use corridor. The property is owned by Manor Village LLC and is identified as Tax Map 620, Parcel 2. The staff coordinator is Julie Chop. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Hello, my name is Glenn Robinson. I'm the one that wants to open up the business there at 6229 Portsmouth Boulevard. The name of the company is Calvary Used Trucks and Moving Supplies, or Calvary Truck Rentals and Moving Supplies. And basically what we want to do is rent U-Hauls and sell moving supplies, and eventually down the road start the roadside service for U-Haul also. But that's not going to be out of that building. You asked earlier if we'd be accepting trucks from one-way trucks from other places, areas. We would. The 4 trucks is pretty much all we're going to have there at any given time. If I do come to work and find more trucks there, then what we'll do is we got permission to park them in the back, so that way the parking lot's not going to get overloaded with trucks. And if we get too many trucks to park in the back, then all I have to do is contact U-Haul. They'll come and pick up the excessive equipment and take it somewhere else. There's 3 different avenues of revenue for this business, and that's the truck rentals, the reservations, and the sales of moving supplies. The company, when we start out, is going to have 1 full-time position, 2 part-time positions. Hopefully, after a few months, we'll be able to open up. We'll be able to start up 2 full-time positions and 2 part-time positions. Does anybody have any questions?
Commissioners, are there any questions of Mr. Robinson? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-21-15. I have no registered, yes, I have one speaker, two speakers. Our first speaker is Mr. Chet Miles. If you would come forward, please. That was Chet. If you have any additional comments.
Hello, Council. I was for another job. I don't believe this was me.
Okay,
Particular.
that's not you. Sorry. I have no registered speakers on this item. If there is someone here who would like to speak and did not get an opportunity to register, please come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Okay, appearing to be none. Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, the chair is now in need of a motion for UP-21-15 with conditions.
Yes, Sherry Thaxton, I would like to make a motion to approve UP-21-15 with conditions.
Is there a second?
I'd like to second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Thaxton?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Page?
Yes.
This item is approved by a vote of 4-0 with conditions. Our next item, Z-21-06, Ansel Gardens Apartments. Community Housing Partners Corporation requests a rezoning of 2216 and 2220 Walden Avenue from urban residential UR to multifamily urban residential URM to develop 39 apartment units and a new leasing office on the combined properties. The properties are forested and vacant of structures. The proposed development is an expansion of the neighboring Ansel Garden Apartments. The combined properties are approximately 2.26 acres in size and will be developed at a density of 18 units per acre. The properties are further described as Tax Map 465, parcels 38 and 39. The generalized future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan recommends low to medium density, single-family residential development for both properties. The staff coordinator is Stacy Porter. Will the applicant or the representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Rob Beeman. I'm a local land use attorney with the Troutman Pepper Law Firm here today on behalf of the applicant, Community Housing Partners. Joining me today is Mr. Mark Huffman, who is the Director of Land Development for CHP. We're before you today with respect to applications that involve the existing Ansel Gardens apartment complex, which is located at 301 Ansel Road, just west of George Washington Highway. The existing complex was constructed in 1964 and contains 80 units that have been owned and operated by CHP for about the last 20 years or so. CHP, which you may remember, we were before you just a couple of months ago with respect to a similar property down on Bird Lane off Deep Creek Boulevard, is a 501c3 nonprofit based here in Virginia, which owns and operates multifamily apartment complexes throughout the southeast and along the Atlantic seaboard. And in addition to offering units to the residents, they provide a range of additional services. In this particular location with the existing complex, they provide youth programs, tutoring, employment programs, and job search assistance, computer lab, homeownership and financial literacy training, and senior health and wellness classes. This property has been very popular with its residents, and over half of the current residents have been here for 10 years or more. Given the age and the popularity of the development, CHP would like to expand this complex onto adjacent property that it has owned for 20 years by constructing 2 new buildings containing a total of 39 units. The new buildings will be attractive with high-quality building materials, including brick and fiber cement siding, and would feature modern features and amenities. CHP would construct, own, and manage these as part of the overall Ansel Gardens apartment, so it would function as a singular apartment complex. In terms of public outreach, CHP sent letters to each of the single-family residential neighbors to the south of the property back in September, and those letters provide an overview of the project, contact information for my client, Mr. Huffman, and also invited these folks to a Zoom meeting that we held in September. We've had several participants and several folks contact us, including 2 that we spoke with in the hallway just before the hearing. And I wanted to share a couple of the comments that we heard just before the hearing and kind of what my client would like to do to address these comments. The first, Mr. Miles, I know Mr. Miles is going to speak. I think he asked if we would commit to having a fence along the southern boundary of the property, and my client is certainly willing to do that, and we're willing to work with Mr. Miles to make sure he's happy with the fence. Additionally, I know Mr. Everett is here as well, and he asked us a question about stormwater, and just to clarify for everybody, all of the stormwater from the site, right now, it just kind of flows wherever nature takes it. But under the new state regulations, of course, when we develop it, we'll have to bring it all into the site and store it and then take it up to Ansel Road. So there'd be no flooding issues on the southern boundary. And as a matter of fact, we'll make the existing conditions better. And the final thing I wanted to point out, I don't know if it's clear from the plan, but just to make sure everybody kind of understands, the sole access from this property will be off Ansel Road to the north of the site. There'd be no access at all and no involvement with the properties to the south. It will be completely northern oriented, and you see we have all the parking and the other facilities up there as well. So with that, I certainly appreciate y'all's time and consideration of this application. CHB believes this is a good fit for this property and will provide needed additional housing opportunities for the folks along this corridor. So thank you very much.
Commissioners, are there any questions of Mr. Beaman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-21-06. I do have several registered speakers. Our first speaker is Mr. Mark Yadaldi Yatrowski. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Not I.
Not you?
No, ma'am. That should have been pulled.
You want to speak on the Z-2106,
I did originally,
but you don't want to speak on it at all? Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Our next speaker, William Ponemus Sr. You would come forward. You have 5 minutes to speak, sir.
My name is William Andrew Pontius Jr. I live at 2224 Greenwood Drive. This is not the first time that there has been a decision to try to build low-income housing in that particular area, which does a lot of damage. If you notice that when you see them, that they're 3 stories high. So that means they look right into our backyard. We lose our privacy. Not only does it affect us, it affects the Navy too, and I'm surprised they're not here. But the thing of it is, you get a lot of foot traffic like we got from Old Williams Court, which is now called Marsh Landing. They changed the name, but didn't change the situation. Having people walk through your yard because they wanted a shortcut to Greenwood Drive. And sometimes when they make that shortcut, they take a few items with them. And we've had this happen before. Or we have had what is commonly referred to as front porch robbers. And this putting low-income housing in this area, it's just starting to expand the area from Portsmouth all the way down from George Washington all the way up to Deep Creek. when you come right down to it. I live right at the edge of where they plan on doing their work. And I'm absolutely opposed to it. And I'm surprised more of our neighbors aren't here, but the daytime, and if they gotta work, they can't show up. So that's all I've got to say on the situation, but I'm absolutely opposed to it.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker, Mr. Chet Miles. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Name is Chuck Miles. I live at 2204 Greenwood Drive. I oppose this apartment complex in the back. I talked with the guys a little while ago, and they satisfied some of the questions I had. But at the end of the day, I don't know where all the water's going to go. We do. I mean, they explained that they're going to have a lot of drainage, but in our backyard, it's a swamp, and it can be a swamp. And actually, my backyard and what actually takes all the water in is 20 to 60 feet past my residence. One day I'm gonna have to pay for flood insurance, and are these guys gonna pick up the charge for the flood insurance, or I'm gonna lose a house my house is gonna depreciate. I lived in it for 5 years, just bought it 3 months ago. Had I known this was gonna come down the pike, there's no way I would have bought this house. The selling point of the house, it's a beautiful home, but the selling point of the house is definitely not the front street. Cars go 60 to 100 miles an hour at any given time. And now the backyard is going to be taken down. I got security. I mean, they're talking about putting a fence up, which would be all and good. I would really enjoy that. But I also would like the permission of the city to let me put a 15-foot fence up as well, a green monster, as you would call. So, I mean, we were planning on putting a nice pool in this summer. That's not going to happen. And I do have concerns about, at the end of the day, I've got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, the security of them. I mean, we have the apartment complex that are right about 150 yards off. For the most part, it's quiet. Every once in a while, just like us, we have a little party here and there. But at the end of the day, I just don't want to see an apartment complex in my backyard. And neither would the builder or their attorney or anybody that's on the chairman, on the council. I mean, I bought the house, had to pay a little extra for it, and I'm pretty much going to lose everything in my equity with this house being built. Like I said, he said it won't be able to start until 2023. That's a good sign in case you guys approve it, and I can get out and leave Portsmouth, which I've resided in for pretty much my entire life, other than the military that was in. So with that being said, and there's a lot of wildlife back there too, and I don't mind the wildlife, the possums, the foxes, the eagles. I've seen eagles, seen hawks. I just don't want this to tear our neighborhood up. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-21-06. If there's anyone else here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward at this time, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good
Well, I
afternoon.
guess I didn't have to put this on. My name is Reverend Donald Everett. I live at 2212 Greenwood Drive. The proposed housing will directly be in my backyard. For 16 years, I've lived there, and I have enjoyed the quietness. I've enjoyed the peacefulness. I've enjoyed the luxury of having my children playing in the backyard, my grandkids when they come over. These type of housings, I have no objection to providing housing for people. But at the same time, I've been in a situation before in another city, I've seen how it disrupts the quietness, the peacefulness, and what we've enjoyed as the former speaker said, you know, before when I first got there, the average speed going down Greenwood Drive was about 35 miles an hour. Now the average speed is about 55 miles an hour, from 55 to about 75. Again, we have different animals back there, foxes, possum, eagles, hawks. They've enjoyed it too. So now we'll disrupt that by clearing that forest and that swamp. And again, some of the questions were that I alluded to and that were alluded to were answered. Where would the water go? Because of the fact that we have 8 to 10 to 12 inches of water sometimes in our backyards. And so now one of my worries was, would that push that water deeper into my yard after I got there, and I had to bring in dirt to fill up back there because it was low. So, you know, I'm opposed to it. There's no question about it. I'm opposed to these type of homes coming in. Again, I understand, and I was sent the literature. I saw it online that it was sent 3 levels in one area, 39 units in another area, but they look directly into our backyards. And that is a concern of mine in this day and time. Because of the fact that, again, and I want to put emphasis on this, we have children that play back there. I understand there's a fence up. A fence is only a temporary barrier. It's not for protection, it's not for safety. To me, it's just a boundary and a border. So I object, because the reason why I moved there is because it was an old neighborhood. It was a quiet neighborhood. It gave us comfort, it gave us peace. The neighbors knew each other, it gave us protection. And while we may not have dealt with each other, we understood where we were. And everybody was of the same mindset, the same livelihood. Most of us are retired. And like I said, there's a disruptive nature when you put low-income housing into a residential area. And that kind of is what I want to say, but I'll leave you with this. I oppose it, and I hope that you do too. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone else here who would like to address Z-21-06? You may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, is there any further discussion? If not, the chair is in need of a motion and a second.
Sherry Thaxton, I would like to make a motion to approve Z-21-06.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Commissioners, we have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motioned and second to approve Z-21-06. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Thaxton?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Page?
No.
This item is approved by a vote of 3-1. Our next item, UP-21-16 Ansel Gardens Apartments. Community Housing Partners Corporation requests a use permit for 2216 and 2220 Walden Avenue to develop 39 apartment units and a new leasing office on the combined properties. The properties are forested and vacant of structures. The proposed development is an expansion of the neighboring Ansel Gardens Apartments. The combined properties are approximately 2.26 acres in size and will be developed at a density of 18 units per acre. The properties are further described as Tax Map 465, parcels 38 and 39. The generalized future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan recommends low to medium density, single-family residential development for both properties. The staff coordinator is Stacy Porter. Will the applicant or representative please come forward if you have any additional comments?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, thank you. For the record again, Rob Beeman, local land use attorney with the Troutman Pepper Law Firm. This is kind of a part of the same application. The only one thing I just wanted to point out real quick, I believe one of the gentlemen indicated that it'd be a 3-story building, kind of looking into the backyards. The building that is adjacent to the single family has been reduced to 2 stories in height. So it'd be just like having a kind of a 2-story house behind you in terms of height-wise. So I just wanted to make that clarification. But otherwise, same comments as before. I appreciate it.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Beeman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, public hearing on item UP 2116. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, the chair is in need of a motion for UP-21-16.
I'd like to make a motion to Sherry Thaxton to approve UP-21-16.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I'd like to second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motioned and second to approve UP-21-16. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Thaxton?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Page?
No.
This item is approved by a vote of 3-1. Our next item, CA-21-04, citywide. The City of Portsmouth proposes to amend City Code Chapter 40.2 zoning ordinance to require a use permit for the car wash or auto detailing use in all districts that allow this use, including neighborhood mixed use, NMU, general mixed use, GMU, light industrial, IL, industrial, IN, and historic limited business, HLB. The City of Portsmouth proposes to amend the use-specific standards for the car wash or auto detailing use to ensure that the use is compatible with their surroundings. The staff coordinator is Julie Chop.
Good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. This is Julie Chop, Principal Planner with the City of Portsmouth. This presentation will provide details on the proposed code amendments to the city's zoning ordinance in accordance with the September 7th Planning Commission resolution. The city manager requested that the Planning Commission initiate amendments to the zoning ordinance regarding the car wash and auto detailing use in order to mitigate and minimize the impacts on surrounding uses. The following amendments are proposed to the zoning ordinance: to amend the use table to require a use permit for a car wash or auto detailing use in the general mixed use, GMU, light industrial, IL, and industrial, IN zoning districts, in addition to the neighborhood mixed use and historic limited business zoning districts. The following additional use-specific standards are proposed to be added to the existing use-specific standards for the car wash and auto detailing use. Areas containing vacuum spaces shall comply with the interior vehicular use area landscaping standards. The landscaping islands shall be installed on both ends of any rows of vacuum spaces. Large vacuum equipment shall be fully screened in accordance with the zoning ordinance screening section. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments to zoning ordinance chapter 40.2 of the city code in order to improve the development process as well as mitigate and minimize impacts on surrounding land uses in order to reasonably and objectively meet the needs of the citizens and businesses while maintaining the health, safety, and welfare of the public. This concludes my presentation, and I will now stand by for any questions from the commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. Chop. Commissioners, are there any additional questions of Ms. Chop? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item CA-21-04. I have one registered speaker, Mr. Mark Yadaldi Utrosky. You come forward. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, honorable commissioners, other interested neighbors. This particular item seems to have come up out of a lot of community chatter about proliferation of car washes in the city of Portsmouth. Now, I will state that in my own opinion, I'm much more favorable to car washes as a business enterprise than casinos. And I may live a sheltered life, but I'm only aware of 6 commercial car wash facilities in the city. I will not claim to have done an exhaustive study of that use, so there may be a few more that I'm not aware of. But some of my neighbors, and I use neighbors in the broadest sense for fellow residents of Portsmouth, are not aware that business is where you find it. Portsmouth has suffered greatly from vacant property, property that's been in public hands, and unused or underdeveloped property. And so that hurts our tax base. To me, car washes in general seem a rather benign sort of business. One aspect of it that may not be a matter of public knowledge is that the city derives a fair amount of income from the sale of water to businesses, and one of our principal water customers is on an indefinite trajectory for the future. Wheelabrator, which provides steam to the Navy, may be leaving us in the not too distant future, which means that we will be losing revenue from water sale. So car washes, there would have to be an awful lot of them to fill that gap, but certainly their presence helps to mitigate that loss. In terms of needing a special use permit, that adds to the administrative burden of establishing such a business, and I would not want to see it arbitrarily put in place. I can see an argument for neighborhood mixed use, general mixed use, and historic limited business district use. But in terms of light industrial and industrial uses, I'm not really sure that we need to be as circumspect about limiting the car wash use. I did not note prior to the presentation in the work session that detailing is also covered. And detailing is somewhat problematic because,
Sir, you have 1 minute.
thank you, because there are mobile detailing providers, and so they can pop up in just about any setting. I would like to see use permits, therefore, to protect residential uses, residential areas. So, in sum, I do not think that light industrial or industrial areas need to be regulated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item CA-21-04. If there's someone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, and you have 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, the chair is in need of a motion for CA-21-04.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that CA-21-04 be approved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve CA-21-04. Commissioners, as I call your name, please reply with a verbal response. Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Thaxton? Yes. Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Commissioner Page?
Yes.
This item is approved by a vote of 4-0.
Madam Secretary, I believe that concludes our agenda for today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Commissioners, is there any other further business we need to discuss today? Mr. Baldwin, is there any other further business?
Yes, sir. Just for the record, that code amendment you just voted on, that CA 21-04, for the record, that will be going to City Council at their meeting next Tuesday on the 12th.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anything else, Mr. Baldwin?
No, sir.
Okay. And there being none, this meeting is now adjourned.